Right, it says I'm live. Okay, I wonder if anybody can hear me. This is the first time I've ever done a live, so welcome to the first ever live that I've done. Um, if you guys can hear me, let me know because my computer doesn't speak to me, so I rely only on people to tell me. I thought I would jump out of my comfort zone and actually do something a little bit different and actually do a true live. So we have this wool that I need to do something with, and you guys get to tell me what you would like me to do with this other than just knit it up. So, what would you like knitted up? Should we do a blanket or should we do just maybe a chair cushion? Or you can even do rugs. And by the way, this particular yarn, let me get to the end of it, is really, really, really extra, extra, extra puffy because I didn't felt it very much. I only felted it a little teeny tiny bit. So what should I do with this? Should we do a blanket? I think nobody can see me yet. So I'm going to pull some out and we're going to start knitting a blanket. So originally I thought I would do an hour of arm knitting, but if nobody's going to show up, I think I won't last that long talking to myself. Right, so what we did is just a basic slip knot. Maybe I should do that in front of the camera. So we did a basic slip knot, and this wool is huge. I'll just tell you what this is. This is called wool roving, and it is lightly felted in the washing machine. And this particular wool is called white eider top, and it was absolutely the cheapest wool I could find anywhere on the planet. And I bought a lot of it in bulk so I could get even a bigger discount. So I ended up paying for this for 10 kilos of it, which is like massive. This is probably just like 1 kilo here. So if you can imagine 10 of these balls, I probably paid, and this was like a year and a half ago or maybe 2 years ago, I probably paid about $180 or about 160 pounds. So it was really cheap. Merino wool is very expensive, but any wool works, and this was cheap. So we want a basic slip knot, and I think I'm just going to probably do a basic baby blanket. So the first thing we're going to do is knit our cast on row. And this is actually a crochet cast on. And this way you can make it as long or as short as you want as you go. So we just pulled the yarn through the loop. And we just pull the yarn through the loop. Maybe if I do it this way, you guys can see better. Pull the yarn through the loop. And we want to keep pulling the yarn through the loop until the baby blanket is as wide as we want it. So let me go a little bit further. Okay. And this does have a lot of give, so it will vary depending on what you're doing with it. So I see 2 people are watching me. Hello, 2 people. Unfortunately, if you don't chat, I can't tell what you're saying to me. So we're doing a basic baby blanket. Now, you pull up the end, the side, and then we want to knit loops into all of these. Here we go. Here we go, here we go, here we go. How many of you have found that doing these little crafty things really help with being cooped up with like unnecessary lockdowns? As you can tell, I don't like them. I think they're a lot of nonsense. So let me pull more out. So these bumpies we're going to knit into, and on the other side, this is going to be the front of our blanket. You can see it's a very nice braid or a plait. So on this side, let's start knitting into these. So I have one on my arm, and I'm actually going to slip all of these onto my arm because it's just easier to show you with the camera here. But usually I do. Oh, hello, Trudy. Lovely, lovely to see you. Usually I do this on the ground, and if you have really big arms, by the way, Trudy, have you watched from the beginning? I asked anybody to show me what they want me to knit, and we're doing a baby blanket. If you have big arms, really big arms, don't worry, you don't have to do arm knitting on your arms. You can actually put this flat on the ground and just pull this through just with your fingers very easily. I'm just putting it on my arms because it's easier with the camera. So here we go. Into these little loops, and they're right in the center. They're very easy to find. I found a lot of people were so confused with this when I made these arm knitting videos a few years ago. And it's always right in the center. So you can do it into this one actually, if you do all of them consistently. You can't do it into the bottom or that you'll have just a messed up wonky blanket. So we're gonna keep going through the center. And then I'll show you what we do at the end. So one more and then we have the end. There we go. So is Trudy still watching? What have you been up to, Trudy? And where are you from actually in the world? You could be from anywhere in the world. Right now I'm in the UK. Right, so we just pulled it through the last loop. Now, here's the trick. If you want this blanket to be shorter, you can just leave as many stitches off as you want. This is the beauty of doing a crochet cast on. You can always change it within the first row. If you do more than that, you can't change it. So if you wanted to end here, you could, and you could just keep knitting this bit back and forth and build that up. Indiana, USA, yay! I'm actually from the USA originally, but I'm from Idaho. I've never been to Indiana, but I've seen pretty pictures of it. So you could just leave this off and then unravel this like this, completely unravel it. Let me actually do this and unravel more. And this will make your baby blanket shorter. This is a trick people don't tell you guys. I'm telling you guys. So you can cut your yarn here and then weave it kind of into this, and then you'll have whatever's left. Right, so let's carry on and let's just do up some rows so we can see what our blanket is going to look like. I think I'm going to have to go back. That's better. Okay, so the first row we always skip. You can knit it, but you'll have this bumpy, wonky thing on the outside, which is beautiful if you want a really bumpy textured blanket. So there's sometimes you do use it and sometimes you don't. For this one, we're not going to use it. We're just going to take this off and put it onto our other arm. Let me get my tails straightened out. So we always want our yarn opening up perfectly. Sometimes your stitches will be like this, and if you ever see them like this is a crossing here, you don't want that because it will make your stitches sit sideways instead of straight. So your blanket won't look nice. So this way is straight open. We're going to have a beautiful blanket this way. And this is this side. So I'm going to pull this in. By the way, when you're knitting and you see these bumpy bars, this is called a purl stitch. And on the other side is a knit stitch, and it looks like a braid. So we pull this off and we want to open it up and pull our yarn right through the loop, up again, and our arm in. Very, very easy. I should have put some music on or something, make it a bit more interesting. So I would love to know, you guys, what hobbies you have other than just arm knitting. I'm sure loads of you are multi-talented. Okay, again, the first row, we just simply slip off and put it onto our arm. And then we're going to knit these all the way back. And this is a twisted stitch. So open it up, make sure it's right, and then in we go. And I'm knitting very, very loose stitches. You can knit very tight, you can knit very loose. The looser ones will give you a bigger blanket. The tighter stitches will give you a smaller blanket, obviously. You probably didn't need to be told that, but that's how it is. So this is what we have so far. Let me flip it around. And if you wanted something like a very basic chair covering, chair cushion, you could just stop here. And on this side, although this stitch is a bit wonky, it looks like this. So this is a bit weird to hold up. All right, camera angles. There we go, that's better. So you could actually stop and do a cast off row here, and you would have a very, very simple, basic, but very fluffy chair cushion. But you would want to make sure this is pretty felted, or you'll end up covered in wool every time you sit on it. So felt it up in the machine first, and then knit it into what you want. All right, let's keep going with our blanket. Again, the first stitch in the row, you always slip off. Oh, by the way, guys, if you're watching, can you do me a favor and share this onto your social media, your timeline, your whatever? And let's see how many people we can get here. Because it's a little bit boring to be knitting on my own. It says there's 3 people watching. Hello, 3 people. So I'm not on my own. There we go. Okay, lovely, lovely. So the 3 people that are watching, the 2 people that are watching, what do you guys keep yourself busy with for crafts when you're in a crafty mood? So we just keep knitting till the end and keep pulling out extra yarn. So we're getting bigger. And this, because I made this shorter, this is actually going to be more like a really fluffy bed runner. It should have been a bit longer to make it a baby blanket. So this is going to be more like a bed runner. And this is the opposite side. So, like I said, these bumpy ones are all called purl stitches. And that means your yarn is going in through the front of the stitch. But from my side, the yarn is coming from the front to the back. So it would be like if it was this way, it'd be coming from the back of the stitch. And it looks, you know, like braids. So let's keep going, let's keep going. All right, let's just get on with it. So, and then have a look at what it's going to look like in a bit. By the way, guys, I would love to do this every Sunday. So every Sunday around this time, I'm actually going to start. I'm actually going to start knitting somewhat regularly, or at least I'm going to try. I'm going to attempt to do that. Since this is the cool season for the Northern Hemisphere, and lots of people are into knitting. All right, let's do a few more rows. Remember, we always skip the first row, and then all the way to the other side. All right, here we go, here we go. I'm going to flip this around and show you guys pretty soon. Okay. So sorry, this is like, this is white on a white background. So let's go up closer. Ooh, doesn't that look nice and fluffy? I love the way it looks. Guys, it looks better on camera sometimes than it does in person. So, cuddly, cuddly, fluffy, fluffy. And this is not the expensive merino wool roving. Sorry, this is actually white eider top wool roving. And the reason I bought this one, like I said earlier, is because it was the absolute cheapest one on the planet that I could find. I actually have a video on my YouTube channel. I should have put that in the description. Maybe it is in the description from other things. It actually, I walk you through the website I go to, which is called World of Wool. And this is where I got this one and how they have hundreds of wools. Maybe they have thousands of wools. So the way I found this one is I went to Arm Knitting Yarn. No, I didn't. I went to natural yarns or natural wool rovings, and then sort by price, cheapest to most expensive, and then you'll have some fluffy, messy stuff, and then it'll get to wool roving like this. And then there's quite a few different choices of really cheap stuff. And like I said, I think I paid about $180 for 10 kilos. That's like 10 of these massive balls of yarn. So we finished this one. I'll just show you how to cast off. And then I think maybe we should do something more exotic. Let's see, I have to have a think about it while I'm casting off. So let's do a cast off row. Again, we first skip this stitch and then one more stitch onto our arm. And then we're going to take this back one and drop it over and off the front one. Very easy, not difficult at all. Are you guys following? So we have again 2 stitches. We just drop the back one over the front and then off. And do the same thing, open up our stitch, pull it through, and the back over and off. Wonderful. Now this part, at this point, normally you would have a pair of scissors, cut this off, pull your tail through this little loop, and cinch it up, tighten it off, and then you would just have a single tail here, and then down the side of your blanket, which if you have done skipped the first stitch, like I said, you will have this nice braided smooth edge. And then you can just take this extra yarn and just kind of, you know, tuck it in and tuck it here and there into the side of this, and it'll disappear beautifully. So let me show you all the edges, how this looks. Front and back once I get it all pulled. And like I said, this has, you know, a lot of kind of give, and it definitely stretches a long ways. And I'm not tearing my yarn, you guys. It's just, it is actually that stretchy. So on the front side, we have this nice even knit stitches. On the sides, if you did that, skip the first stitch, it'll make an nice even braid here. And let me see, yep. And the same on that side. And then also our cast off row. Where's my cast off row? There it is. It's also the same. It's a nice even braid. So if you do those, you have nice kind of even this braid stitch, which is like a knit stitch. It looks like this. They are equal all around. Oh, I have 5 people watching me. This is exciting. 5 people. Where are you from in the world? 5 people. Oh, someone else is here. Can I come over? Oh, I would love you to come over. Where in the world are you? California. Oh, you have to swim the ocean if you want to come visit me. I'm in the UK. So this is what we're looking like. Now, guys, what should I knit up with this? You want to see something exotic like a heart? Hearts are more difficult. I don't know if I'm up to doing a heart. I'll actually have to use my brain and do some thinking. So while I unravel all this, I'll think about it. Let's do it this way. So what have you been up to, California Republic? I love the name. You guys, I have to tell you one thing about white eider top. This wool smells like sheep. So that's, for some people, it's not very nice. Personally, I love the smell of it because I grew up on the farm and it just reminds me of my childhood. So But you can also spray, when you're felting it in the washing machine, you can spray on essential oils into the wash or into the dryer if you want to felt it up that way. And it will take out a lot of the smell. And just leaving this open to air for at least 10 days will also get rid of a lot of the kind of natural woolly sheep smell. So we're getting down to the end. And like I said, this is really huge felted wool roving because I didn't felt it up too tight. I did just a little bit of felting, enough so it sticks together and it doesn't fly everywhere and rip apart when I'm knitting it, but not enough to make it super tight and dense because I didn't want this set dense. And originally, my yarn is all empty on the floor now. Originally, I bought this yarn to make a wool mattress topper, and it worked out like amazing. If you've never slept on a wool mattress topper, you don't know what you're missing. They were insanely expensive to buy, so I thought, why didn't I just try to make one? And it was a really exciting experience, and it worked out so well, and I got the best sleep ever on it. And now my youngest son gets to sleep on it because of the size of our beds and stuff. All right, what do we do? What do we do? What should I do now? I wish there were more people here that could chat. I'm assuming some of you don't have accounts, so you can't actually use the chat box. So, let's do a seed stitch blanket. So if you've never done a seed stitch blanket, it's a very textured, bumpy blanket. So what we just did before was a knit stitch blanket. So one side was all knits and one side was all purl stitches. Nice and even, and the sides were all braids. Now a seed stitch blanket is just full of little tiny bumps. The whole thing is super duper bumpy. So this will be fun. We'll do this. And you want on your hand an odd number of stitches to make the whole thing even. It really doesn't matter. And especially when these stitches are so huge, sometimes if you want your blanket an exact size, you want to just stick with what you're doing. Yes, I'm married. I'm happily married with children. So let me count. So this would be 1. And let's pull it this way. 2. And let's do 3, 4, 5. Let's do 7. We don't want this too big. 6, 7. And on one side we have these bumps. The other side we have again the nice braid. And we're going to start with this bumpy, and for this row we're actually just pulling all of our yarn through just like normal. Actually, we're going to skip because this one is actually attached to this stitch, so we need to skip the first bump and go to the next actual real one, which is here. Okay, so I'm just going to be doing a first knit stitch row, just a plain, boring, pull everything through first row. So you guys should be able to follow along. And like I said, you can do this on the floor. You don't have to do it on your arms, especially if your arms are very big. You can just use it on the floor. It's just easier to show off for the camera if I leave it on my arm. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is always still skip the first stitch because that gives us a smooth edge. Now we're going to do something a bit different, and always make sure your stitches open the right way, not twisted around like this. You can see this is overlapping each other, but this way is just like wide open right from the base. So we need to go in the back. So I'm going to pull it through from behind. So one from that way, and then open up our stitch and then come from the front. So if your yarn is back, you just need to throw it over into the front in between the stitches. And now we're going to pull it this way, which makes a bumpy bar purl stitch. And then we're going to take it and we're going to throw it back again and pull it through. And this makes a nice, this kind of stitch. It looks like a braid. It will look like a braid. It doesn't look like much of anything right now. And then we want to go in the front and pull this through to do a purl stitch. And then just normal, just the ends are just normal stitches. You just pull them through. You don't worry about back or front. So again, we're going to drop the first stitch off. Now, this is where you need to pay attention. So you can see the first stitch we have is this bumpy bar stitch. And that's when I was coming in through this side. Now I want to do exactly the opposite. So I'm going to throw my yarn around the back and pull it up. And this makes a different type of stitch. It makes the opposite. So this one is going to go through the front. So it's one through the front, one through the back. This needs to go in the back because this is twisted. This is the bumpy bar thing. And this one is to go through the front. So you have to kind of pay attention with your wool or you'll have, sometimes if you don't pay attention, you'll end up having several stitches of the same thing and then just all bumpies off to the side and then also, it'll be a mess. So you actually have to really pay attention on these kind of blankets. So what do we have here? We have a bar. So this needs to drop into the back and we need to do a knit stitch. And this one is a knit stitch. You can tell it looks almost like the beginning of a braid. So it needs to go in the front. We need to do a purl stitch. And then we just carry on with those things. Right. Now the beauty of these type of blankets, it's a bit hard to see what's going on here. What about the opposite side? Yeah, the opposite side looks a little bit better. You can see it's more detailed. The stitch is more detailed. It's bumpier. And this type of blanket is the exact same on the front and the back. So there is no front and back with these type of blankets. It's the same. The only way you can tell the front from the back is, I'll show you right now, without the tail. So this is the cast on row from one side and the other side looks like this. The other side actually looks like a nice braid. And when you do a cast off row, it will match this exactly. So one side will have a braid at the bottom and the top. And the other side will just have, it'll look like just nothing. It'll just, the blanket just has bumpies and then ends. Okay, so let's carry on and let's speed it up so we can see what this is going to look like. Let me stand up and back up. So let's just carry on and see if I can do this without making a mess of it. Whoops. And also always make sure your stitches are not twisted up, or that just makes the blanket look very messy in the end when you want it to look beautiful. So as you can tell, I'm not paying attention to one forward, one back. Although normally I do, I'm actually just looking at each individual stitch and deciding in a split second if I need to do a knit stitch or a purl stitch. But often knitters will usually do counting knit one, purl one, knit one, purl one. But I'm not doing that since this is such a small, easy pattern. Right onto the floor. Whoops, whoops, whoops. Almost caught me out there. It's very easy to mess up, and I can't tell you how many times I have actually messed up. So Trudy, can you attach a link where to buy the yarn and what blend? Yes, I can do that. In fact, tomorrow I'm going to make a video with a very exciting announcement that all arm knitters will absolutely love. And I will try to put the link there, and I'll put it in the description of this video too when I finish. It might already be there because I have a video on my channel called Where I Buy My Yarn, and it actually shows you World of Wool's website, which unfortunately is based in the UK, but they are a globally known family business, and they do ship everywhere. So talking and knitting, guys, just doesn't work even when you've done it for years. So you can probably find it on my channel. Oh, I have to tell you this. World of Wool, I haven't tried this, but I know from other people doing it. World of Wool also sells now synthetic roving. So this is wool roving. It has come from a sheep, but you can buy synthetic acrylic roving. So if you're allergic to wool or you want something really, 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 really cheap, then their acrylic wool roving or wool arm knitting yarn is absolutely dirt cheap. So normally 1 kilo of yarn is costing something like, I don't know, it's like 20 or 30 pounds, which is like probably $25 to $35. But if you buy their acrylic stuff, I think it's more like between $16 and $18. So it is way cheaper. Unfortunately, it's not a natural fiber, but it definitely is very billowy and very soft. And you have to felt it up the same as you do wool roving, and it does felt up in the washing machine or dryer. But it works great if you have a tight budget to use. Yeah, if you're on a tight budget. So we're getting near to the end. Can you guys see? Oh, that looks good. This looks really nice on camera. Sorry about the white background. White wool, white background. We didn't think about that one. And let's keep going. Okay. I don't think I want to do too much more because this is getting long. So you guys can see this would be a really beautiful bed runner. 1 kilo of wool typically makes about a 30-inch by 30-inch square knit stitch blanket. And you'll notice when you start arm knitting that different stitches are tighter and some are looser. And the looser your stitches are, the bigger your blanket will be. Like I could have knitted the same thing, this same yarn, very loose. In fact, let's make some big stitches so you can actually see the difference. If I make this very loose, then my 1 kilo of yarn will go a lot further and make really the blanket size much bigger. So let's actually knit some really big stitches. So it is more drapey if you do big stitches. And there will be more holes in it that you can kind of see through. But like I said, your wool will go farther. So it depends on what you want, I guess. And that would be a knit stitch. This would be a purl stitch. Okay. So you can see, whoops. almost had me again. I was almost knitting where I should be purling and purling when I should be knitting. Okay, you can see how this is changing, and this has got a lot of weight on it because this is really pulling it down. So let me do one or two more rows, and then I'll stop and I'll show you what this is looking like and the difference in how stretchy it is to the sides, because if you do these loose stitches, it goes way further out the sides when you give it a good tug. So if you have a bed and you want it to fit that and you don't have enough yarn, you can actually do just really huge stitches and it will give it a lot more stretch if you're happy with these kind of giant holes. Okay, this is the last row and then I'll show you what it looks like. I think we have enough here. Okay. All right, I have to keep going back. Okay, let's get my tail out of the way. So, right then. Right, so this is the kind of tighter stitches, which weren't really tight. Actually, I was doing those even quite loose. And then you can see, this tail is annoying me. Come on, up, back. So you can see how this is a lot looser and it is more, more drapey. And this is more stiff. I mean, it's not really stiff, it's still drapey, but this one, let's get this off my arm. This one, really can go far to the sides. And this one, it will still stretch to the sides, but you can see that it is, really kind of confined in how far it will stretch. So these are just different ways that you can do it. Tighter stitches or looser stitches is up to you, but if you're on a budget and you only have a certain amount of wool, you can definitely make your stitches bigger and your blanket will stretch wider. And it will stretch, taller a little bit as well. Okay, that's one side. That's the other side. You can see that there is no difference. Apart from this side, this side the blanket just ends, but this side you actually have like this nice braided edge where we did the cast on row. So let's just do a cast off row for the top. And if you're doing your blanket stitches really, whoops, we don't want to drop a stitch. If you're doing your blanket stitches really loose, then you need to do your cast on also really loose. A mistake I made at the beginning of when I was learning to knit, I was doing all this, huge knitting things. And then because I didn't know what I was doing, these stitches were like so tight on my wrist when I was casting off. And then when I would cast off, I would have this really wide blanket that would go and like it would look like a bottle, it would have a very tight top and then it would just get bigger. And I thought, what is going on here? So you have to make these cast off rows, just as loose as you have done the stitches in the rest of the blanket. And here's another trick. Let me see, is anything else been said? Nope. Here's another trick. Some people like to do one row of very super tight stitches and then one or two rows of very loose stitches. And that makes your blanket go like this, in and out. And it looks like, like kind of a wave thing. So that is another way that you can use bigger and tighter and looser stitches, to make your blanket different or textured. So you guys are getting a lot of like pro tips out of me today. We're doing good. Okay, let's do a cast off row. So nice, huge stitch. And we want to do whatever we were doing before. So this is like a purl stitch. So we need to make this one a knit stitch. Nice and big. So because this is so huge, I'm not gonna slide it on my arm. I'll just keep it here and we want to take this one over and off. Then we slide this on. So let's do another stitch. Oh, that's not right. So these stitches are massive. And then over and off. And I'll show you how huge this is looking. Let me pull this out. We are getting there, and this is like my whole blanket. The weight of it is just pulling it all down. Normally you would be sat, all of this blanket would be in your lap or on something, so you're not stretching out the yarn. But for the sake of the camera, I'm standing and showing you guys. This is not very practical. So you can see how much it's just yanking on this. This is not good. Okay. And this is our last stitch. So we pull this out and over, and normally we would cut this off, pull this through, cinch it up tight, and then just weave this tail right down the end and like through all these little bumps and in, and it'll just disappear nicely. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Now let me get this tail out so you can actually see. So this is the knit stitch, cast off row, and it's a basic knit stitch look, nice and braidy. And you can tell these huge stitches, you know, it's nice and loose. It's not yanking it together. And this one is a nice tighter weave. So you can see the difference. That's a knit stitch blanket. Nice. Good. So guys, I've been on about 41 minutes. You can definitely do me a huge favor and share this on your timeline or on anywhere on social media you are to show people how to knit. And I will have a huge announcement on my channel tomorrow, hopefully, if I can get the video made, that you won't want to miss. And you'll be getting some really awesome free stuff. So definitely subscribe to my channel so you don't miss that. Hit the bell so you don't miss that announcement. And every Sunday at around 9 o'clock England time, UK time, I will be hopping on and we will be doing some arm knitting together. So I will see you next time. And thanks so much for joining me. Trudy, I will definitely try to put that link in the description of this video if it's not already there. And good night for me. Thanks for watching. And thanks for being my very first audience on YouTube. I have never gone live like this before, so you guys are my first crew. Thank you for watching. Now let's see if I can figure out how to turn the live chat off. Oh, it's there. Bye. And